I thought I would cover my top 5 solo games for this year. That is the year of 2015. Number 5 on my top 5 list is Imperial Settlers. Imperial Settlers is beyond a doubt sort of the engine building game you want to play when you don't want to have anything in your way when you're building your engine. Basically, the game takes the concept of don't stop your player from doing the thing that they like and takes it to the extreme end. So basically, you have buildings that generate resources, right? And they generate people, wood, cards, tomatoes, gold, whatever. And in most games, it'd be like, okay, you put your production building, you pay for your production building, you build it, and you use it next turn. Imperial Settlers like, nah, you know, you use it right away. Yep, you make a deal by paying 1 food and putting a card upside down and tucking it underneath your board. Most games would say, and you get that next turn. And Imperial Settlers like, you totally get that now. Activation buildings, most games would say, oh, you played it, so you can use it next turn. Imperial Settlers like, now. So that's just awesome because it basically unleashes every single combo opportunity and it does it fast. That's really enjoyable. The other enjoyable part is well, I guess this is only really enjoyable in multiplayer is the wanton destruction that you can wreak if you've got enough little sword resources. And also you can like destroy stuff in your hand to get resources, but it's kind of more fun to destroy other people's stuff. That's the one thing that I kind of miss in the solo game is that you can destroy the AI opponent stuff, but it just isn't as satisfying. That's the word I'm looking for. So the solo game is missing that part. It's not missing the more important part, which is combos, 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 combos. Engine, 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 build, 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 build. So there's that. So the solo AI is sort of the exception to the rule of you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however much you can afford to, which is that the AI actually goes out and destroys buildings for you. How nice of it. This is a way to just keep the tension up in the game because otherwise it'd just be building an engine without any bounds, and that can be fun, but it's only fun for a little while. It's sort of the whole, if you don't put bounds in something, what's the fun because you don't have a boundary that you can try to cross. So there's that. And that is a major failure of the default solo game. But I only put it on my top 5 because of the solo Civ variant that Ignacy and Portal Games put out for this game. It's posted on their blog, and it's also posted now on Board Game Geek, but basically it's a series of tables, and you'd think, oh yay, series of tables, roll d10s, kind of boring. But it adds this whole layer of a campaign system, basically. Campaign systems are wonderful for solo games because they allow you to develop a story as you play the game multiple times. And that sort of provides you with a sort of growing impetus. You're sort of like, you got a different setup every game. You got different things to upkeep. And really, the thing about the Civilization game is not only are there like events that change each game, but you're actually building an empire. You accumulate these little territories, and they give you advantages like they give you resources, they allow you to skip event cards, manipulate event die rolls and stuff like that. Giving you resources, those are the neater ones. So you have them. but they also cost resources and sometimes even accumulated victory points. See, every game you play, your victory points you accumulate, and then you get to spend your victory points on achievements like the Colosseum or trading or aqueducts, to sort of improve your game next time. But you always accumulate a territory, or you lose, you lose the campaign. And because you keep adding them, all the upkeep costs start adding up quite seriously. And so it becomes this sort of race where you have a better starting position, but your ending position where you need to get to, and you need to get beyond that in order to have more victory points to improve your situation, because your situation is only to get more and more tense. That's an excellent, excellent way to take a so-so solo variant and make it awesome. So hats off to Portal Games for that. Number four. Number four is Fields of Arle. This is Uwe Rosenberg's thematic masterpiece in his Harvest septology, possibly nanology by this point, the Harvest series anyways. And it's so thematic, theme just drips everywhere. I mean, you're raising animals, you're not doing as much of the low-level detail of sowing wheat and as you did in Agricola, but you have these fields that you're building. You have these buildings that you are getting resources for. You're growing the resources. You're refining the resources. So say you're getting wool from your sheep and you refine it into wool cloth, which can be refined further into wool clothing. And you are looking to score points by building these buildings that give you special abilities and also score points. And you build vehicles, and this is the big addition really, is that there are these vehicles that you build, and once you build them, you can put your refined materials like your clothing on them, or you can put on trade, you can put other items there for trade like little peat cubes. And there are destinations that you can travel to. They're sort of represented by these tiles, and these tiles have like multiple needs listed on them. And if you can fulfill that one need using one of your vehicles, you score that tile. Some tiles are bigger than others, and they will score you more travel points if you complete one of their needs. And so basically you want vehicles to deliver your stuff to these little towns. It's very cute. Someone asked earlier on the forums whether this was like Harvest Moon or that style of game, where there are little celebrations and marrying people and raising families and all that. It's like, not really. It's just basically marriage between Agricola, some parts of Le Havre, some parts of Ora et Labora. So it's not a Harvest Moon style game, but it is a very pleasing, very thematic, very peaceful farming game with possibly the widest decision tree I've ever seen in this type of Euro game that doesn't have much randomization. It's got a little randomization. You randomize like a few of the starting buildings that are available to build, but that's it. And so unlike Caverna, it has a little bit of randomization. And also, unlike Caverna, its decision tree is much, much wider, which is really weird because in Caverna, you're like, well, I've got all these action spaces I can go to, But the problem with the action spaces is that they're not as nuanced as the little tiny action spaces are in Fields of Arle. Like, for instance, in Fields of Arle, you can individually improve a space that you put your worker on. Like, you can say, oh, instead of just going here and fishing and getting 2 food, I can improve it, and by placing a worker on the workbench row, and and make it better so that next time I go there, I'll have 2 food, and also sometimes victory points. And you can do that for ovens, for flensing, which is turning little animals into leather. Yeah, there's that too. That's cheerful, right? Of course, you were eating horses in Farmers on the Moor, so you know, whatever. So there's that, and so because you can take these spaces and improve them, and I think that's what makes the decision tree much wider in Fields of Arle opposed to Caverna, where Caverna, the spaces are the spaces you go to, and that's kind of it. Um, and the fact that in Fields of Arle you've got spaces that are for one season and spaces that are for another season, whereas in a Caverna you have this gradually revealing series of workspaces, worker spaces. So that's very linear, and especially in Caverna where you don't randomize that, that's so linear. Fields of Arle takes the workspaces of Caverna, makes them improvable, and makes it so that you have twice as many, basically. And some of them depend on each other, and some of them have alternate resources going on. It's just basically more complexity here. The tree is much wider. So if someone tells me that someone solved the Caverna solo game, no one's been able to beat his score, and I don't think that's happened for Fields of Arle. If anything, it's a real struggle to get beyond 120, 130 points, which, you know, 100 points is a decent game, possibly a good game, but you just want to push yourself farther. And yes, that does make this a score better than your last time, but so if you're a person who wants to go for a single optimization strategy and the only way that you actually change your strategy is if the circumstances change, this game is not for you. But if you're someone who is willing to explore different strategies, even if they may not be optimal, even if they may be less optimal than what you've done before, this game is totally for you. Also, if you love farming and spotted cows. Spotted cow meeples! Excellent! Number 3 is Pandemic Legacy. Now, I wanted to play Risk Legacy. The problem is that it's very hard. I'm sure there are variants, but it's hard for me to get around the idea of soloing Risk, and I kind of don't like Risk to begin with, so not a high priority for me to play Risk Legacy, although I was very curious about it. So when Pandemic Legacy came out, I was like, yeah, you know, this could be good. Oh my god, the price tag, but this could still be good. It could still be worth it. Then the reviews started coming in, and people were like, oh my god, this game is so good. So I'm like, yeah, I'll get it, see if it's any good. It is good! So take the somewhat dry puzzle of normal Pandemic. You know, you got your characters with special powers, running around treating diseases, finding disease cures by collecting color sets of cards, locations becoming that are affected by disease more likely to be affected in the future. That's a really neat mechanic, but otherwise it's a little dry. It's like set collection with travel around the world and moving your meeples and all that. So it's a little dry. It can be a little dry for people. Some, not all. But Legacy takes that and adds personality to it. Like, for instance, your cities will become differentiated from each other depending on how often they've been affected by the disease. Like, if every time an outbreak occurs, the city moves one step closer towards, like, ultimate chaos. And that's neat because now the cities are all different, and it's actually dangerous at certain levels to go into cities, and you may not even be able to enter certain cities. And so, you know, that throws a wrench into taking care of outbreaks. Now the map changes from game to game because these cities that get screwed over by you, they don't forget that you screwed them over. So there's that to mitigate. The rules change. There are little spaces in the rule book that are empty, and they're like, put this sticker here if you are told to. And it's like, oh, okay. And you get an advent calendar of like stickers, and someone commented on Board Game Geeks like scariest advent calendar ever, and it's like, yes, they are right, it is the scariest advent calendar ever. You do not want to open any of the little doors, but you have to. And probably the best part is your characters. Like, now you're not just the medic, you're the medic, but you've been scarred by your experiences, and or you have in now you have this condition, or you get this special power because you've been losing the game, so you get advantages. And even the cards themselves can change. Sometimes the game will say, you could do this, or you could lose the game. And actually choosing to lose a game is a viable strategy now in this campaign, because if you lose the game, hey, you get more funding next game. If you keep winning games, your funding goes down because you're like, well, they're handling the problem fine. They surely don't need all that money. Why have money for the CDC? Who cares about them? So there's just this constant tension, and as I said before, campaign systems are great for solo games. So Pandemic Legacy, what can I say that hasn't been said before about it? It's awesome, and I can't tell you anything, but I'm really close to opening that box that you can only open if you've lost 4 games in a row. I'm very close to that. So if that happens, I will let you know so that you will know. And number 2 is La Granja. Oh, it's like a work of art. Now, it's not work of art in terms of looking awesome. It does look pretty good for a Eurogame. It's got really good components. Things are pretty well illustrated. I like the icons. They're fine. Wooden dice. Who wouldn't love wooden dice? Except I don't know how they roll, so maybe not everybody, but neat stuff, dice allocation, whatever. The real heart of La Granja, and if it wasn't for this, La Granja would not be a work of art. But La Granja has this system of cards. It's all centered around a deck of cards that, is dealt out to people, and you draw them and you build them into your little tableau. And the thing is that every card has 4 functions. A card can be a worker. That's the middle piece. It's got a special power. You slip it under your board, and the board has a little cutout so that it only shows the worker piece when you do that. So you can choose to play a card as a worker, and the worker will do special things for you. It's not a worker in the sense of worker placement. It's just, like, oh, I've got a farmer's maid now, and she does this thing once a turn. But the card can also be fields. So cards will have different colors of fields on the side, and you slip them under the side of your board, and it reveals only the field side, and it has these little spaces where you can put your little cylinders to represent crops. And so that's how you get fields to grow crops in. And then there is the extension side. That's the other side of the card, which can improve your bonuses that you get for delivering stuff to the market. It can increase the number of barn spaces for raising pigs. It can increase the number of little donkeys that you can use to deliver your goods. It's just awesome. Improves hand size. That's my favorite one. So you slide them under the side, and they only reveal the bonus side. So you've got this little mountain of building stuff that you've tucked under. It's really neat. And then on the top, also with little cutouts so that it only shows the top of the card, is basically, I would call them market goals. Sort of like you have very specific things to deliver, and you deliver them. You don't deliver them to a specific place like you do with the normal market. So you deliver these, and you get victory points, and you get to put your cylinder in a market space that acts like a victory point salad bowl. Basically, I don't care very much for that part. I do care about getting victory points and delivering these really special items like 2 wines, a pork, and a grape, and gather all of that and deliver it. It's just interesting to get the mechanics right. There's dice allocation. You roll dice, people get to choose dice and put them on the little put them on the board, and then they get to do the action that die indicates that you do. There's various other tracks and things. La Granja is a sort of got a lot of moving parts to it, but it's all centered around these cards that let you manipulate these parts. And the cards are what make it. Because every hand, like even if you only had like 2 cards, it's like 8 possibilities, and you're just sort of staring at them going, how do I do the things that I need to do? And you've got like 6 rounds to do all that in. So, it is point salad, but it's got a really great central mechanic, and that mechanic is awesome. And that's why La Granja is number 2, but it's not number 1. And I think if you guys have ever have read my solitaire games on your table entries, I think you know what number 1 is. But La Granja gives it a run for its money. Number 1 is Viticulture Tuscany. The AI mechanism is so neat. Morten Monrad Pedersen has really outdone himself with the AI for viticulture. It's just a deck of cards. You flip the card, it puts the workers on the various spaces, and then you can't go there. And it's basically all the logic you need in order to provide an interesting solo experience. Now, granted, it doesn't have the trying to interpret the groupthink of your opponent's. I never liked trying to find out what the group think is. Like, what is the group thinking? I don't care. I think there's some sort of distribution there that makes it not as random as it could be, because I think it like hits the fill wine order more often than the other spaces in the winter part of the board. At least I think so anyways, because it feels like that. It feels like every time I want to fill an order, oh, Ultima went there first. And if it was just Automa, it'd be like, just a little bit below La Granja. But no, it's not just Automa. It's everything else plus Automa. Automa makes it sweet, but the other expansions make it much sweeter. Now, everybody knows Viticulture got actually much, much better when they added the Grand worker. The worker that can go into a space when every other worker has already filled it in. You can just say, I'm going to Grand that. I can do that anyways. Screw you all. So that's awesome, right? Property, for instance, one of my favorite expansions because it gets rid of the money tightness. One of the things I dislike in games is intentional money tightness that actually keeps you from doing what you want to do, so extremely much that all you can do is concentrate on getting money to do the things that you want to do, and it wastes half of the time of your turn, and you may not even get the money to do what I want to do. It's why I like Imperial Settlers so much, right? And also why I like Viticulture with the property expansion. Otherwise, Viticulture early game is kind of it's a little penny pinchy, but with property, much better. The new visitors and the advanced visitors, much better. I hear they're changing the visitor mix in Essential Edition, and that's all for the better. And I think that's pretty much all you need, plus Ultima, for an awesome viticulture experience. And plus, viticulture is just beautiful. You've got all these wooden meeples, and you've got these beautiful, beautiful boards. I mean, I said La Granja was a work of art. I just meant game-wise. Viticulture is a work of art visually as well. It's just literal painting. The board still has elements on it that make it clear what each part does. So that part's nice. Planting vines, harvesting grapes, then getting them into your wine cellars, and then aging your wine, and then selling it is very, very thematic. It's hard to get more thematic than that. It's hard to get more, this is kind of like what I abstractly think of a process as doing, I love the special workers. The special workers that all have little special powers. So awesome. But I don't think that's being included in Essential Edition. I think that's being included in the Tuscany add-on. Oh, I love Original Tuscany. And Original Tuscany has a huge board that has way more spaces, which opens up a lot of possibilities for you. The only space I kind of don't like is the influence map, because I feel it's just too gamery. I'd rather spend the influence on raising my cows to have cheese. Like, I want to do away with the influence map, like, almost entirely. I'm like, screw the influence map. Sure, give the AI an extra 5, 7, 8 points. And then I can just, like, not care about the influence map and just raise my cows and have my cheese in the Formaggio expansion. I don't think that's included in any of the new stuff. Neither is arboriculture. You can plant tomato vines and make tomato sauce. You can do the same thing with olive trees and making olive oil. I really like that. All that said, whatever edition of Viticulture you have, as long as it has Optima, you should be fine. Optima is so brilliant. It's brilliant in its simplicity, and coupling it with the game, I mean, like, it can be anything from this point barrier that you have to pass to win, or this moving point barrier where you have to keep ahead or you lose. So it suddenly becomes this living, breathing opponent. And that's really interesting in a solo game. You're gaming against a system. It'd be nice if the system was actually actively gaming against you, and you felt that, and you get that tension. Viticulture, awesome! And if I had my way, it'd be #1, but Mage Knight. Speaking of Mage Knight, I'm looking forward to the new Star Trek Frontiers, and perhaps in a week I shall do a video about my most anticipated games of 2016. Cool catchphrase in development. Thank you very much. Want early access to Elemeeple videos? Do you want to determine which videos will come up next on the channel? Would you like to actually dictate which game should come up as a review on the channel? These rewards and more are available through my Patreon, patreon.com/Elemeeple.